Welcome to the Scaling Japan podcast, a podcast about how to grow your business from $100,000 and beyond in the land of the rising sun.
Welcome to the Scaling Japan podcast. I'm your host, Tyson Batino, and on today's episode, we have Yoshi Nishikawa. He is an innovation specialist for the city of Kobe, and he will tell us more about Kobe City and its approach to startups. This episode is a part of our series on startup cities in Japan, and we have interviewed Kobe with Yoshi today, Aichi, Sapporo, Fukuoka, and Shibuya. Yoshi, could you please introduce yourself?
Okay, thanks for having me, Tyson. And my name is Yoshi Nishikawa, and I work for the Kobe City in charge of the startup initiative. And what I mainly do is to make your ecosystem global by being connected with the global ecosystem around the world since I joined 3 years ago. So before I joined the Kobe City, I used to work at the private sector. Let's say it was Japanese big companies and take care of the overseas marketing and sales basically in Europe or Southeast Asia. And at that time, I was getting attracted by the startup world where the things move fast compared to the world where I belong to. So I happened to find a job post of this position, and through the interview, I was getting more attracted by what Kobe City does. So my boss appointed me, so I decided to take it.
And here you are now. And I think I don't think you need to feel so much pressure. It's, I would say half of the other cities, it was their first time to be on a podcast as well.
Sure.
So I think you're good to go.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's excited to me as well.
So I guess I have a history with Kobe because when I first came to Japan, I came to Kyoto, but I had a really good friend who lived in, I can't remember the name, but Rokko, Hankyu Rokko.
Okay, yes, where I was living right now.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, very nice area. Very, very nice area.
And honestly, I was born and raised in Kyoto, and moved to Kobe 3 years ago.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So yeah, it is pretty close. And the last connection I have is my wife went to University at Kobe Gaidai, foreign language school. And I met her when I was living in Nara and she lived in Kobe.
Okay, that's great to hear.
So yes, I have been to Kobe many, many, many times. But now back to business. It's could you tell us more about Kobe?
Okay, so yeah, Kobe is actually, in terms of the startup support, Kobe is kind of the leading ecosystem in a way that we launched our programs and initiative at the very early timing back in 2016. And at that time, there are not so many municipalities doing the startup support. Like, of course, the Fukuoka and Osaka was already started, but there are not so many other municipalities was not doing. So in a way, yeah, we are kind of, let's say, the leading ecosystem in Japan.
Yeah, and I think Kobe is also a really easy city for foreigners to live in. Yeah,
that's right. And yeah, there are so many foreign nationals living in the Kobe because of we have many foreign countries, big companies like a P&G or Nestle have the base in Kobe. So in that sense, there are so many foreign nationals living in Kobe.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I know there's a lot of international schools, probably for multiple different languages.
Yes, you're right. So honestly, yeah, there are, I think, 7 or 8 international schools in Kobe for, of course, the Western based international school, also the East, kind of the Chinese or something as well.
Interesting. And could you tell us maybe the population in Kobe and if there are any other big corporations as well?
Okay, so the population is around the 1.5 million. Actually, it's getting a little bit decreased, and it's going to be less than 1.5 million. And the big corporates, let's say the ASICS and the Kawasaki, maybe you know from the automobile, the
Mm,
motorcycle,
yeah,
and also the UCC, which is also one of the biggest coffee company in Japan. And the Sysmex is also the very famous biomedical companies. So in terms of that, there are so many biomedical related company in Kobe because we have one of the biggest biomedical cluster in the area. So,
excellent. No, thank you for sharing that.
mhm.
And so at Kobe City, so I know that you would like to attract a lot of startups, but
Yeah.
are there any industries or business types that uh, Kobe is very strong at?
Okay. So like I said, the biomedical is one of the biggest industry in Kobe. So we are currently focusing on the five areas of the startup. One is the life science, of course, and the other is the food or the hydrogen, which is the renewable energy, and also the aerospace and also the tech and IT. And in terms of the food industry is actually has the biggest GDP within the Kobe industry. So,
Hmm.
but as you know, the food industry is a little bit legacy industry and a bit behind of innovation. So we need to accelerate them to have more innovation in the area. And also, of course, the tech and IT is currently very important. And uh, I think this week or next week, Microsoft is going to open the AI IoT lab in Kobe, which is
Hmm.
the world's fifth lab in the world.
Oh,
So with this initiative,
congratulations.
thank you so much. So with these initiatives, we are going to attract the more AI-based startup. So this is also interesting initiative that we are currently doing. Yeah.
And I have multiple friends who are working in the market entry for food
Mhm.
and beverage businesses.
Yeah.
But and it seems let's say every couple months a new person that I know is kind of focusing their attention there. So it seems to be kind of a booming business potentially.
Yes. Of course, everyone see the Japan as the food-rich countries. And I guess in terms of the food processing or the food culture as well, there are very high potential of the food tech. But at the same time, there is a very big challenge in the Japan market, especially in the vegan food or something. Japanese is really requiring the high quality of the food, and still the vegan food is not reached out to the level of like the Japanese people can be satisfied. So still
Ah,
there is a gap
interesting.
between, but we try to attract the food tech startups from Europe or US so that we can be collaborating with the local businesses or local companies in Japan.
And it's funny too, and I think about it, it's like you're not competing just against meat, but you're also
Mhm.
competing against tofu.
Ah,
And there's
yeah.
so many variations of tofu in Japan that are
Hmm.
very high quality.
Yes, yes. So once you eat the tofu in Japan, maybe you cannot eat tofu other part of the world. So
Yeah, and you can
I
eat the
believe that.
fried tofu like atsuage. And
Yes, yes,
so it's yeah, you got competition from non-meat as well. But
yes.
so I guess for food tech, could you actually maybe describe for the listeners what you kind of mean by food tech?
Okay. Of course, the food tech is a kind of the wide meaning, I guess. And in terms of the food tech, there are sometimes the delivery app or at the other side is more deep tech based, like producing the how can I say milk protein, like a protein like a casein or casein or
Ah,
whey
I've heard,
is
yeah.
using the microbes or something. And currently, what we are looking for or we are currently focusing on is more tech-based food tech. So last time with the inbound programs, we call it Next Kitchen 2023. We invited 6 startups from Europe. Out of those, 3 was very deep tech based food tech startups, like using the mycelium or using the precision fermentation. So this is where we are currently focusing on.
Yeah, I've heard of the mycelium is the common one.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think they call it out protein nowadays.
Yes.
Alternative protein.
And so just I want to add, but the Kobe is known as the biggest sake manufacturer. I mean, the Japanese sake manufacturer in Japan.
I
So
didn't
it
know that.
means in the world. So we have like a long history of experience in the fermentation, especially the koji fermentation something. So this kind of fermentation technology can be used to enhance the technology of the precision fermentation or some areas in deep tech of food tech. So that's why we are trying to working on that.
Thanks for clarifying on that. Yeah, and if the listeners don't know, like the out protein, it's actually a lot of attention is going into that.
Mm-hmm.
Is the reasons because is that live it like of course one it's I think for more like the vegan market, but is it also if they have alternative proteins, maybe they can reduce carbon emissions? Is that kind
Yes.
of connected?
Yes, I guess there are 2 reasons to promote the food tech. One is, of course, to protect the animals from the brutal, and the other part is, of course, to care about the carbon emission. But in Europe, let's say the maybe 50% or something is coming from the protect. They want to protect the animals from the brutal. So that's the reason behind the vegan market. So
Gotcha.
it's a bit different from Japan, but yeah.
Okay, thanks for explaining. And could you also tell us a little bit more about for the health tech and maybe specifically what Life Tech Kobe is?
Yes. So when you hear about life tech, it means you might think that it means the life science something, but the branding of life tech includes the 2 meaning. Of course, one is a life science, but also the lifestyle, like food or fashion, because we are local governments and we are committed to enhance the lifestyle or life quality of life of the citizens. So that's why this life includes the 2 meaning of lifestyle and life science. So that's why the startups that we are focusing on, of course, life science, but the other part of areas like food or fashion or anything else. And in terms of the life science, there are so many startups in Kobe area. I think 50% or 40% is related to biomedical healthcare startups. So yeah, there are some interesting companies, but if you need any details, yeah, I can explain later.
Sounds good. And I have one good friend in the health tech industry doing a Japan market entry, and it's an American company, but I heard that you guys are very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And so, what type of supports do you offer for an entrepreneurs?
Okay. There are many actually. So, for example, the startup visa, let's say startup visa, I think there are many other municipalities doing the same thing. So maybe I can skip that because the system or what we do is almost exactly the same as the other municipality does. So
Okay.
the other
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
the other listener or the listeners, you can hear about that on the other podcasts as well about the visa system.
And the other part is like a finance. We have some subsidies also that we have our startup fund. In terms of the fund that we are currently operating, called the Hyogo Kobe Startup Fund, where Kobe City is actually invest as LP, and its fund size is around 10 million US dollar. And with this fund, we invest in the early stage startups like seed or Series A. And our scope is more Of course, the startups based in Kobe, but it doesn't limit to Kobe-based startups, but still a little bit flexible to invest in startups who might have positive impact on Kobe economy. So,
Nice.
and also the ticket size is from around 100,000 K Japanese yen to, no, 100,000 US dollar to 1 million US dollar. And the average is around 300K.
Okay. Do they have to be incorporated in Japan or Delaware?
Uh, it doesn't have to be incorporated in Japan. We are still a little bit flexible, but the venture capital firm that actually operating this fund is Japanese based. So they might have some difficulties in seeing the Delaware law or something. So it might be better for us to have them incorporate in Japan.
Gotcha. Yeah. And for the listeners, that's actually very normal. I've
Mhm.
made a lot of introductions of foreign startups too, like, or reaching out to me. And it is very normal for Japanese VCs to prefer incorporated in Japan. A
Yeah.
few, some might accept Delaware,
Mhm.
but you have to be exceptional
Yes.
because it's so much extra work for them. And like Yoshi mentioned, they're less familiar, or I would say they're not as familiar with Delaware. And
Mhm.
so it is increasing a little bit, but pretty much you should expect to be requested to incorporate in Japan,
Right.
unless like unless everybody wants you. If
And
you don't have like VCs like knocking on your door, then it might be pretty hard.
that's right.
One of the common challenges I see with my consulting clients is not having any staff internally who can drive marketing strategy and execution to the next level. This really limits the growth trajectory of a company, especially for a leader like you that wants to go from 30 million to 500 million yen a year and does not have the time to spend years learning through trial and error. To solve this problem, I'm launching a marketing agency that can help companies like yours to increase leads and closing rates through SEO, Google Maps, content marketing, and websites that convert. Head over to scalingyourcompany.com and book a free consultation. Let's talk about what your business needs are, where your current strategy is letting you down, and how we can help you see real results with the methods I've successfully implemented at multiple companies myself. Now, back to the episode. Cool. So I guess, yeah, one is the investment and the
and
other
the
one is the
other
visa. Please continue.
and the other is a subsidy we can provide as well. And we also have a subsidy to those who have an office in Kobe or incorporate their companies in Kobe. Basically, we provide maximum 10 million Japanese yen, so which is around 100,000 US dollar. But right now the yen is a bit weak, so maybe it's around anyway. But we can provide them for 3 years, which can be used for rent or hiring talent or something like that.
Oh, nice. Are there any conditions for it? And I think you said up to 1 million, right?
Up to 1 million. No. Up to 10 million Japanese yen.
Oh, wow. That's pretty big. And
Yes.
what are some of the requirements for that?
Uh, so the has to be something has a potential to be scaling up, and it has to be also related to IT technology because when we built this subsidy, everything is about IT is kind of the scalable. So we set up those criteria in a way. But right
Or
now, of course, yeah.
and did you mention staff members too?
Yes,
And
but it also they have to be kind of the CT or the executive level of technology background.
cool. Anything else about the subsidy that maybe the listeners would need to know?
Mhm. Currently, that's the most common subsidy in the Kobe city. So once you want to find out more, then please just let me know or please contact me. I can maybe share later.
Sounds good. Do you, by chance, so you offer subsidies, investment, do you offer any tax incentives?
Unfortunately, no. in Kobe City right now. So
Cool. Just checking.
yeah.
And are there any success cases of a foreign company or startup who set up in your city?
Yeah, that's sometimes a difficult question because, uh, before COVID-19, we were running the 500 programs, which is basically focusing on the foreign startups for them to use the Kobe city as a springboard to grow their business worldwide. So we are not, we didn't expect them to have a base in Kobe at that time. And after Kobe, we started to focus on the supporting global startups. So it's still 2 years from we start. So there are not so many success cases,
Gotcha. Yeah. Still
but of
pretty
course
recent.
there are still some cases actually. So one is actually the Almatech. They are a Swiss company who is developing the hydrogen powered boats. And its technology is coming from EPFL. EPFL is the Science and Technology Institution in Switzerland.
Gotcha.
And they actually joined a inbound program to seek for the opportunities in Japan. And their target is to be demonstrated at the Osaka Expo in 2025. So with the program, we help them to find the right partners and also the venture capital fund to raise a fund. And still there, still lots to do to make it happen. But this is one example anyway.
Oh, thanks for sharing. Yeah, and 2 years is still it's still pretty recent.
Yes, yes.
Are there any maybe rising stars coming out of Kobe?
It means the international startups or
Uh,
even the domestic startup as well.
I would say maybe one domestic, maybe one foreign.
Okay. So one, actually there are some rising stars based in Kobe. Let me share maybe two
Sounds good.
from the domestic. So one is the Bacchus Bio Innovation. They are spin-off company from Kobe University, and they are doing the synthetic biotechnology to produce for example, food ingredients or like petroleum-free plastic or protein with using the microbes. So this area is a little bit booming around the world, of course, in US or China or somehow in Europe. And there are actually not so many startups in synthetic biology startups in Japan. So they are one of the most promising startups in Japan. And of course in Kobe, definitely. So they are one of the rising star right now in Kobe. And the other is Serendix. Serendix is a 3D manufacturing housing company. And they try to reinvent the user experience of purchasing housing. Of course, when you want to purchase the house, you have to make a mortgage over like 25 years or 30 years. But
Too long.
yes, very long time. And we are not sure if you can return it because, anyway, their house is around maybe cost around the 3 million yen or something. So which is quite reasonable to buy it. So we can buy the house like we can buy the car. So this can change the experience of purchasing the housing. So this is really interesting technology. Yeah, this is the two.
And cool. Yeah, and I think I want to share as well. It's I have mentored a lot of startups. I have helped a lot of startups with market entries, and in my experience, I have seen many cases of companies who are doing pretty good, and some who are doing very good, and some that have they're doing okay. But kind of just for the listeners, if you're a pre-seed company, you probably, even if you raise, you probably just don't have the resources to enter Japan. And I would say, like, I think it is possible as a seed stage company, but really the companies that I see succeed in Japan, or at least let's say maybe they make 5%, 10% of their, let's say their company's revenue comes from Japan. Some cases 25%, some cases 50 more. But usually it's usually the seed stage company who are like very good, like they're really solid. They're pretty, really close to product market fit, or like Series A companies where they can hire a staff domestically who can do business development. And that's kind of the challenge. I think there's a lot of startups who are hopeful, but it's some cases, maybe it's just better to focus on your own market, find product market fit. The only exceptions are like, where Japan is ideally the key market. And if it is your key market, you have to be all in.
Yes.
Like, and I'm sometimes tired of telling startups, like, you need a website in Japanese. You need like just basic, you need your sales pamphlet in Japanese. So it's, so I think, and if you are like, Series A level, you have product market fit. If you go to like cities like Kobe, they have the network in medtech, and it's so much easier for them to make introductions because you have a proven product.
Yes.
You have corporations in your own country that have done it. Those corporations can introduce you to maybe their friends in Japan. And so it's the less friction or the less barriers you create for cities like Kobe, the easier it is for them to make the connections. But oftentimes you have to do the groundwork. The cities, they provide support, but that's what it is. It's support. And I didn't address this in any of my other episodes on startup cities, but we have a pretty good number of listeners. So probably 300 plus 400 people will listen to this. So so I think that's a key point to mention. The more you have product market fit, the easier it is for them to support. If you don't, it's really hard for them to support you.
That's totally correct. And sometimes when we talk to the Japanese corporates, they are quite negative when we connect the startup who doesn't have the product yet, or even before the product market fit. So yeah, if you have any success case in their own country or local businesses, then that would be much easier for us to connect with the Japanese corporate and have them have an interest in your technology and solution. So,
and yeah, go ahead for mentioning that it's I think that's a key point too. Kobe, or like the cities have to be careful, or I have to be careful who I make introductions. The more you can make it easier for us, the easier it is to introduce. And for some of your cases, probably better just focus on your own market first. Cool. So I'd like to know more about Kobe itself. Maybe from like, doing sales or doing customer service, business communication. What are people like in Kobe? How is it different from Osaka? Could you please tell us maybe about doing business there?
Okay, doing business here is, or let's say, compared to Tokyo or compared to the other big city, Kobe is more like trust-based. They like to have a business with a person who knows very well. So this is the basics that, so when you want to do a business with the local businesses that are like a local stubborn business owners, you need to enter into the community, and to get to know each other is always important, because then, of course, it depends on how you like to work with. So if it is the big corporates, then maybe there are not so many differences compared to other Tokyo or Osaka or other cities. But if you want to work with the local businesses, maybe it is more like trust-based, and so referral is quite important. And recently, maybe there is one interesting case, and let me give you one example, I guess. And we provided startup visa to our Russian founder, and he is offering services of hardware and system development to SMEs at first hand. And his goal would be actually developing his own services in the end. And in Kobe, there is an area called Nagata, which is a bit deep area. And there were many stubborn local business owners in manufacturing. So, however, we connected him with a key person in the area. And not sure how he did, but next time we see him, he became already a part of Nagata community and got some inquiries from them. So this is, how it works. So this is the one example how you can connect with the local businesses. Trust, yes.
Trust is everything. Thank you for listening to this episode of Scaling Japan. In addition to serving as your fine host, I also provide advisory and coaching services to business owners who want to 2x, 5x, and even 10x their business. So stop holding your company and your team and your employees back, and let me help you and your company scale. Find more information at scalingyourcompany.com. Now back to the episode. And actually, so I guess that'll be my next question is how can they develop trust? How can startups develop more trust with maybe cities or Japanese companies or business people?
It's a personality always. And also by who you want the referral from is also very important. So for example, I introduced him to the local businesses. And before that, I already established my relationship with those local businesses. So they understand who I am. And through me, if I introduce someone to them, they somehow trust the person who I introduce. So that's how it works. Of course, after that, they need to try to build up their own relationship with them. So I'm not sure, but as an entry, this is always important to get into the local businesses.
Maybe I can share an example from my end. It's so I sometimes have companies like even through like startup programs sometimes, and like they just jump into like, can you make any introductions for us? And like it pisses me off actually. It's like, wow, you're so disrespectful. It's let's say you're so unempathetic. Like you don't, if this is how you treat me, I definitely can't introduce you to a client. And what I mean by that is like, you don't have any sales materials in Japanese. You don't have a website in Japanese.
Okay.
You don't understand how hard it is to make a relationship. And if I introduce one person that sucks, and if you suck, like they won't accept introductions from me again. And just for people to come out and like, even through programs, just to say like, can you give us introductions like that? Let's say it shows me that maybe they don't really get B2B relationships. And which beats business to business relationships is about trust long term.
Yeah.
And I've been surprised, but I find that usually the companies that are doing well, let's say usually their approach is usually much like the startups who are doing very well. Yeah, usually they're much like, oh yeah, we just want to find out about the market. Like they don't just dive into like, can you give an introduction to me? So if I were to give feedback to startup founders, some things you can do is before you ask for an introduction, one is like the person's post on LinkedIn for like a month. If they have any questions, answer it. Then also it's, have things in Japanese, or if you're incorporated in Japan, anything that you can show that like, you're very serious about Japan. Yeah, it's, I think just how you deal with foreigners as well. When you try to enter the Japanese market, it makes a big difference. And if even foreigners feel uncomfortable with like your approach, and Japanese won't tell you.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll give you let's say a false yes. Like,
But sometimes it says no.
Yeah. So if a foreigner is telling you like no, or like I don't think it'll be a match, it's their polite way of saying maybe you might have to improve your approach. Cool. I just say this to help the founders listening, so you don't let's say you don't spend 3 months and like like why isn't anyone helping me out? It's like maybe it's your approach, or maybe it's you're not easy to introduce. So I think that would be a better question. Can I just ask you, people, like, do you think it's easy to introduce me before even asking for the introduction? Cool.
And
But go ahead. Sorry.
Related to this, what makes the different from the other city is also like the who actually supporting the startups is very important, I guess. In terms of the Kobe, there are not quite a few municipality is hiring expert or professional within the organization. And Kobe is one actually doing that. And including myself, our team consists of basically the external talent with the expertise or experience in the private sector. However, the other municipalities, of course, like Osaka and Kyoto, they are actually running the program with their permanent officer. So sometimes it might hard for them to do something new by themselves. So what is done, of course, important, but who will do is much more important as well. So this is kind of differentiator that our Kobe has right now.
Ooh, and for Kobe, what are kind of the plans moving forward in maybe the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, there are actually two things that we are currently considering. One is to get more global the ecosystem network. And we are currently focusing on the Europe or North US, like US and Canada. But the Kobe airport is going to be internationalized in maybe within the 5 years. So with this, we would like to have more business communication between the Southeast Asia and East Asia, much more compared to right now, because we don't have so much communication with the Southeast Asia ecosystem and also the Taiwan or South Korea ecosystem. So maybe within 2 or 3 years, we are going to increase the communication between those areas as well. So, and the second is like Shibuya City, we are thinking to have external organization like a kabushiki gaisha or any type of corporation outside of the Kobe city, because the local government is always facing on the annual budgeting, which is sometimes challenge for us to continue our program from a long time span. We need to get the approval from Parliament every year. And if we cannot get budget, we have to quit anyway. So this is not good for any stakeholders involved in our ecosystem. So in order to make the ecosystem more sustainable in long-term view, we would like to have the external organization so that we can do, how can I say, the move fast and also the more flexible compared to right now.
Thank you for sharing that. And maybe anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
Not now, but yeah, I have. Currently, we are calling for the startups in the food tech and the climate tech startup around the world. And we are currently running 2 programs called the Next Kitchen 2023, which is for food tech program, food tech startups. And also the other program is the Climate Tech Challenge, which is the climate tech startups. And we are going to invite around 5 to 10 startups respectively to each programs. And those startups comes to physically Kobe in the beginning of the February to be connected with the local businesses for them to be able to seek the opportunities in Japan. So the application is currently open to anybody. So if you are interested in, please visit our website, the Next Kitchen 2024, and also the Climate Tech Challenge 2024.
Okay, I might have 2 companies to introduce.
Thank you so much. That'd be great.
And what stages of companies would be potentially ideal?
It depends, but at least, like you said, they have to have the products already and the certain businesses already in the local countries, the origin countries. And at least they need to have the kind of the serious interest in Japan or Asian market. So this is a basic two criteria on our side. Of course, we have more detailed criteria on our side, but yeah, right now, these two are very important.
Thank you very much for your time, Yoshi.
Thank you so much for your time, Tyson. That was really fun to me.
Yeah, I think Kobe offers a lot. Glad to finally have the opportunity to learn more.
Thank you so much.